Rich or poor, Tommy sat on a bench on the sidewalk. His face was a bit dirty. His shirt had a hole in the sleeve, and his jeans were stained green from playing football on the grass. By his side was a backpack in which he carried a bread and butter sandwich, a pair of dice with which he played games, and a raggedy old sweatshirt to put on in case the weather became cold. He was reading a tattered copy of his favorite book. Some girls came and began to stare at him. They wore expensive-looking clothing and lived in an enormous house on the next street with a manicured, well-trimmed lawn and a fancy new car parked in the driveway. They continued to stare at Tommy rudely, but he did not speak. "Tommy, are you tired?" they asked. "Yes," Tommy answered crossly. "I'm very tired. My father's working at the 7-Eleven store, and I have to take him his dinner before I go play football." "Why don't your servants take it?" they jeered. "Servants?" said Tommy scornfully. "We don't have any servants. We're not rich people." "Wouldn't you like to be rich?" the oldest girl asked, while the other two walked slowly round Tommy, looking at his cap. He had worn it so that he might look cool when he went to his father's workplace. "No, I would not like to be rich," said Tommy, shaking his head. "Besides, I wouldn't want servants. Rich people have too many things and wear expensive clothes, and they can't have dinner at McDonald's or work where they want to." "My father works in a fancy office downtown," bragged the girl. "That's because he's rich," answered Tommy. "And people who talk if he didn't. Rich people can't do what they want, like poor people can." "My father lives in a big house," the girl went on, for she was rude and liked to boast. "Yes, and it takes up a lot of room. My father's got the whole world to live in if he likes." "That's better than a house," replied Tommy. "But my father never does manual labor. He hires poor people like your father to do his dirty work," said the girl scornfully. "My father works hard with honor," said Tommy proudly. "Rich people don't work hard," he went on, "so they are obliged to get the poor people to do it. Why, we have made everything in the world. Oh, it's a fine thing to be poor. But suppose all the rich people died. What would the poor people do?" asked the girl. "But suppose all the poor people died," cried Tommy. "What will the rich people do?" "They could sit in their fancy offices and drive their fancy cars, but they couldn't build them. They could eat their fancy dinners, but they couldn't cook them." And Tommy got up and walked away. Poor people ought to be very kind to rich people. It sure would be hard to be one of them, he chuckled to himself as he went along.